Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jake, the Scary Story Guy, and today we're talking about A Haunting in Venice, the latest Hercule Poirot film brought to us by Kenneth Branagh. And even though I've always sort of liked Branagh's adaptations of these Agatha Christie Poirot murder mysteries, I never expected to talk about one on here, because even though they are murder mysteries, they're fun and they're a little bit lighthearted. They're not quite as lighthearted as, say, Knives Out, but there's kind of a similar vibe going on there. However, I realized that was going to change a bit when I saw the trailer for A Haunting in Venice, because unlike basically every other adaptation of an Agatha Christie story ever made, this is marketed as a straight-up horror movie. It's based on a Christie novel called Halloween Party, which I'd actually never heard of before. It's not one of her most well-known or well-loved books. In fact, it was panned by critics at the time who said she was losing her touch. The basic premise is that a murder takes place after a Halloween party, and it's up to the famous detective Hercule Poirot to figure out who done it. However, as the night goes on, he becomes increasingly suspicious, hardened skeptic though he is, that supernatural forces may be afoot. But it kind of seems like that's where the similarities to Christie's book end. There are a lot of major plot differences along the way between this and the book it's based off of, not the least of which being that Christie's novel took place in London, whereas this film not only takes place in Venice, but actually uses it for the title and features the location really heavily throughout. Now, because this is a murder mystery, I'm of course going to do a spoiler-free section here at the beginning, but any good story like this needs to stick the landing, so we are going to talk about who done it at the very end of this video. Don't worry, I will give you ample warning before that time comes. Okay, so the first thing that really stands out to me about A Haunting in Venice is just the location itself. I've always felt that London portrayed on screen kind of has this like bleak Dickensian quality to it that, you know, it works for a macabre story, I suppose, but it's not very flashy on screen. My apologies to any British person who ever watches this, but I think the location change was a good choice. From the jump, Branagh's direction really seems to almost glorify the city, the beautiful architecture and going through all the canals, and you know, it's been called the most beautiful city on earth, and in the first 10 minutes of the movie you get that. But even once the movie leaves that stunning outdoor backdrop behind, from about the 15-minute mark of the movie onward, it almost exclusively takes place in a single palazzo. The aesthetic charm of Venice is still just really striking and in your face the whole time. They even talk about like, oh, how run down, how dilapidated this palazzo is, and it's like, damn, really? Because I'd live there. The other thing that really stands out to me about this movie is this all-star cast. All these Poirot Branagh movies have a bunch of A-list actors and actresses, but here I think the casting choices are more unique than in the other films. We've got Tina Fey in a period piece. We've got Michelle Yeoh as a medium who hosts a seance. It's very much like not what you'd expect from these guys. Everyone's honestly really good in it. A couple of Michelle Yeoh's helpers, I was like, I'm not sure if I'm totally feeling these performances, but everyone else, they do a really good job of writing that line between like, are they sympathetic? Are they suspicious? You're kind of like, oh, I could maybe see it. Maybe they did it with every character the whole time. But really what we need to talk about is the aspect of this movie that subscribers to this channel will probably be most interested in, most curious about. It's what the movie's really writing in this marketing. Is this a horror movie? Do the horror elements work? Is it actually scary? The answer is both yes and no, and I think it just depends on who you are. Because the theater-going audience for horror movies and the theater-going audience for Agatha Christie adaptation, that's a Venn diagram with very little overlap. I mean, these Branagh movies are like one step away from Murder, She Wrote. It's very, like, your parents probably like these movies. Do your parents like Hereditary? My guess is they don't. So to anyone who watches a few like real horror movies every year, it's actually hard to classify this as a horror movie even. It's not scary at all. It doesn't even feel like it's trying to be. But if you're absolutely not a horror fan, you don't watch or enjoy scary movies at all, this movie will at least give you a little taste of what you're missing. There's a seance, there's a really creepy atmosphere, a few well-crafted jump scares, and yeah, you'll get your money's worth. So I guess I would say, dear viewer, that you won't be scared, but your grandma will. Now before I dive into spoiler talk, I do want to give a brief shout out to Kenneth Branagh for his just heroic commitment to this French accent of Hercule Poirot's. It's honestly one of the craziest accents you will ever see on film. And it's not even like Daniel Craig's accent in Knives Out where he's like in on the bit. This is played completely straight, earnest, and it's incredible. At the end of the day, here's my opinion on A Haunting in Venice. I didn't like love this movie, but it's very well made and it's thoroughly entertaining, and I just don't have that much bad to say about it. So I am gonna give A Haunting in Venice somewhat hesitant 4 stars out of 5. I mean, like I said, it's really quite good. Okay, it's time to dive into a bit of spoiler talk. We're not gonna take too long on this, but this is a murder mystery, a whodunit, if you will, so we do need to spend a bit of time talking about whodunit, if if you don't want to see that, please leave now. Okay, now I will say the ultimate revelations in this movie were only like pretty good. I think there is always a part of you that just wants to be completely gobsmacked, completely bowled over by the revelations that arise at the end of the film. And there are a few different reveals at play here. The one that really worked for me was just the revelation that Rowena, the mom, was ultimately responsible for her daughter's death and was the one who killed Michelle Yeoh's character. I thought all of that made a lot of sense. I loved the kind of poisoned honey aspect to it. I thought that was quite clever. And I've always loved an evil mom storyline. They creep me out, just kind of when that nurturing, loving energy becomes twisted for the moms. I mean, like the idea that you would rather have your kid sick and with you than have your kid healthy and out in the world on their own. It sort of reminded me of The Sixth Sense, which I think is like, it's kind of underrated how creepy the last act of that movie is from a plot standpoint. But yeah, I'm always going to be a fan of that storyline, and I thought that the actress did a really good job of playing the mom, just kind of that crazy look in her eyes. Like, is it because she's deranged by grief, or is it because there's something more sinister afoot? The part of the finale I didn't resonate with quite so much was the blackmailing plot, where the doctor like stabs himself to save his son, but it turns out his son was the blackmailer the whole time, who, by the way, his son is like a young child. I guess that part just felt pretty tepid to me. Like, I don't know, I guess just no matter how smart a kid that young is, he's not going to be sending notes to a grown-up anonymously like, I know what you did. And the dad really needed to kill himself right there and then. Like, I don't know, that whole storyline, and it's fine, because I think the real mystery is like, who killed the daughter, who killed Michelle Yeoh. We don't really sit with that aspect of the mystery for too long, and to be honest, I just didn't really have time to care about it before it was revealed. So wasn't a fan of that, but I did think the answer to the original two mysteries in the film was pretty cool. So it's not a 10 out of 10, you know, gold medal, stuck the perfect landing kind of finish, but I've seen a lot of murder mysteries where the ending really just ruins the whole experience for me, and this was absolutely not one of them. Alright guys, stay tuned for more spooky content coming soon. October is right around the corner. I can't wait, but in the meantime, thank you for watching this video, and here's hoping you survive to see the next one.